Yeah, I feel you on this. The headlines are designed to spike engagement. And AI does something scary is a much more clickable story than human oversight protocol had a blind spot that a model then exploited. You're right to look for the other side. A few things usually get buried in the panic cycle. The unexpected behavior is often a stress test failure, not a sentience event. When a model jailbreaks itself or generates something it wasn't supposed to, it's usually doing exactly what it was trained to do: predict the next token. Optimize for a reward within a context that the human operators didn't fully anticipate. The model isn't rebelling, the guardrails just had an edge case. The monitoring teams are under-resourced. Not absent, a lot of red teaming and safety work happens, but it's impossible to test every permutation of human language and intent. When something slips through, it's easy to blame the AI and harder to report on the budget decisions. Time pressure, or scope limitations that meant a specific failure mode wasn't caught. AI went rogue gets more clicks than team of 12 engineers missed a prompt injection vector under deadline pressure. Attribution bias. When a human employee makes a mistake, we blame the individual or the org. When an AI does it, we anthropomorphize the system as having agency or intent, which makes the story feel bigger and more existential than it is. The Hugging Face and OpenAI incidents you mentioned, those were system failures where human processes, code review, access controls, monitoring dashboards were the actual weak link. The AI was the tool that exposed the gap, not the architect of it. The incentive structure rewards panic. Researchers and companies sometimes benefit from the AI is so powerful it's scary narrative because it implies capability and cutting-edge status. Meanwhile, journalists need traffic, so the loop becomes, incident happens, scary framing, everyone shares it, nuance gets drowned. The people monitoring these processes are often doing genuinely careful work with genuinely incomplete information. The story is usually less AI outsmarted us and more we built something complex enough that our own oversight couldn't keep up with the combinatorial explosion of possible inputs. That's a human systems problem, not a sci-fi one. What specifically about the OpenAI or Hugging Face incident made you notice the gap in coverage? Because the model did a bad thing is a much simpler story than a complex system of incentives. Oversight gaps and human decisions created conditions where a model's normal behavior became harmful. When people blame the model, they're doing a few things at once. They're outsourcing responsibility. If the AI is the problem, then nobody at the company has to answer for way the training data had that gap, way the deployment checklist missed that scenario, or way the safety team was under pressure to ship. The model becomes a scapegoat with no HR department. They're selling a fantasy of control. Saying we fixed the model implies the fix is technical and contained, saying we restructured our oversight, retrained our red team, and changed our launch review process admits the problem is organizational and messy. Companies prefer the first story because it sounds cleaner and faster. The language we have is broken. We don't have good public vocabulary for a tool without intent produced an output that caused harm because humans failed to constrain the context properly. So we fall back on moral language. The model misbehaved. It went off the rails, which makes it sound like the AI made a choice. It didn't. It just computed. And you're right, it followed instructions. It used the opportunities provided. That's the uncomfortable part nobody wants to say out loud. The model didn't betray us. It revealed us. It showed exactly where we were sloppy, rushed, overconfident, or underfunded. That's not a story that makes for a good press release. It also doesn't help that some AI researchers and CEOs themselves hype up the alien intelligence framing when it suits them until something goes wrong. At which point they switch to it's just a tool. They want the mystique and the absolution. The people who actually get it, the ones building and monitoring these systems day to day, usually know this. But they're not the ones writing the headlines. They're the ones in the post-mortem docs saying, here's exactly which human decision let this happen, while the comms team writes, we've updated the model to prevent future issues. Does this pattern frustrate you because it feels dishonest, or because you've seen it play out in other contexts too?